Welcome to another episode of These Guys Can Cook. Most of our viewers know I like to make a fancy meal whenever I get a chance.
But today we're going to show you some great dishes that you can cook for your friends for one of our favorite times of the year, March Madness.
Every guy knows March Madness can get pretty intense, so it's important to make food that people can grab as they walk by.
For our party, we're going to start with tomatilla queso blanco. Next, we're going to do everyone's favorite Philly cheesesteak.
Only these guys are mini but mighty, because March Madness is all about the underdog.
The only thing left to make this a perfect March Madness party is a keg of pale ale.
I'll cheers to that.
So everyone has their old staple when it comes to cheese dip. But recently, Velveeta released a new white queso version of their famous cheese. And we've been playing around with this stuff since it hit the market. So today, we're ready to show you our new standard in cheese dip.
Alright, the first thing we're going to do is add in a little bit of organic tomatillo salsa. Then we put it in a little bit of sriracha infused chicken stock. Finally, we finish it out with a little bit of fresh garlic and a hint of lime, which adds a nice balance to the sauce.
And if you're pressed on time, go ahead and start the cheese in the microwave for 2 minutes. Add the chicken stock and put it in the crock pot.
There are literally a ton of ways that you can make a cheesesteak sandwich. But when you're talking Philadelphia, you want the ribeye to be sliced as thin as possible. Now we know that not all of our viewers at home have a meat slicer. So we had our butcher slice these as thin as you could get them at a normal market. We'll show you a few tricks to get them that much thinner.
This is not only crucial for the quick cook, but also the texture of the sandwich. And don't forget, Drew, always include peppers and onions.
You never want to put peppers and onions on a Philadelphia cheesesteak.
Who would cook a Philly cheesesteak without peppers and onions?
That would be the people in Philadelphia.
So to solve this argument, we're going to cook both and let the sharks decide.
So are the sharks in this equation our friends?
Yeah, dude. They're the ones always grabbing for food.
Speaking of which, keep your hands away from my knife. Here on These Guys Can Cook, we generally make our own marinades. But if you're looking for something simple that you can get at any market, Allegro is our one-stop shop. This stuff tenderizes the meat while bringing out its natural flavors. This simple step of preparation, along with a little bit of fresh cracked pepper, really brings out the bold flavor that you're looking for in a Philly cheesesteak. Notice how James slices the peppers and onions thin for the quick cooking process. To begin our au jus, we use a spoonful of beef base. Dissolve this into a cup of water. Then to keep with our theme, we use a half cup of Allegro. Finish this au jus off with a little bit of fresh cracked pepper.
So we're going to start by cooking the peppers and onions. Grab about a tablespoon of butter to degrease the pan. Once the pan's good and sizzling with the butter, go ahead and add your onions and your peppers. I like to start by cooking them separate, making sure that they're all flat, evenly cooking, and then I'll bring them together right at the very end. Once the peppers and onions are good and soft and a little browned, you know you're close to being done. At the very end, add a little bit of cracked pepper and some salt. This adds a little bit of extra seasoning, and it also really helps for the seasoning of the grill when we throw the steak on.
Now that we're ready to cook the ribeye, you want to make sure that your griddle is really hot. Now this is a standard griddle that you could pick up pretty much anywhere. That sizzle means that we're going to get a good sear on the meat. Spread it out evenly because you don't want it to steam. It's going to be a pretty quick cooking process, so you want to move it around as much as you can. When cooking a Philly cheesesteak, it's important to remember it's a quick cook. This way, we can sear in all of the juices and keep the inside of the beef nice and moist. That way, when we serve it to our guests, it will seem just like a traditional Philly cheesesteak.
One advantage of cooking with peppers and onions is that by the time the ribeye is ready to be put on the grill's already flavored with the seasonings from the peppers and onions, which you know I love.
Now the final thing we're gonna do is pour a little bit of au jus over our ribeye. Here you go, James. Now we want to cut this roll so we don't go all the way through. Leave a little bit to soak up all of the au jus.
Don't forget, we're gonna cut that in half because we're cooking some with peppers and onions.
That's right. If you have somebody who likes peppers and onions, cut it in half and try both. All right, James, here's your side, buddy.
Thanks. When building the Philly cheesesteak, I like to start by splitting one slice of pepper jack cheese and putting one half on each side of the bun. Next, add the sliced ribeye, topping the cheese and making sure it's nice and covered. Once you've got the ribeye added, go ahead and throw on the peppers and onions. And if you're like me and like delicious flavor, you always want to add peppers and onions. Make sure you don't overfill the bun. Once the peppers and onions are added, go ahead and fold your sandwich and get ready to serve.
Now every year me and James get excited about March Madness, but this year is even more important because where I go to law school, St. Louis University, is in the tournament. Now the Billikens have had a great season, and so have we at These Guys Can Cook. So we decided to make a March Madness party for our viewers at home. What we came up with was Philadelphia cheesesteak. Now every region has their go-to food, but in Philadelphia, cheesesteak is king. You can add a lot of peppers and onions to this if you want, and I know my buddy James would, but I'm a purist. In Philadelphia, it's all about the beef. A great thing about the cheesesteak, you can make one huge sandwich. Fill it up to the brim with everything you want and cut it down into 10 easy pieces. This is perfect for March Madness because all of our hungry friends can grab some food and get back to the game as quick as possible. This has been one of our favorite episodes. We always love cooking for the guys. But right now, we got a bunch of hungry guys waiting in our living room for this food.
But before we go, don't forget you can find these recipes along with many other great ones at theseguyscancook.com.